I like to call them family action meetings: alignment, communication, and trust. I like moving somewhere. Hey, we're drafting these. Does anyone need clarification? Does anyone want to add something? You know why family businesses are hard is you have mixed the unconditional nature of family with the very conditional nature of a for-profit corporation. You take these two things and mix them together. At 29 or 30, it doesn't have to work. If you wait till you're 50, it has to work.
Hey there, and welcome to Your Next Gen Friend, a successor's guide to business transition, a podcast for figuring out what's next in or beyond your family business. I'm Andrea Carpenter, transition strategist and second gen. Around here, we talk about the real stuff: family dynamics, identity, leadership, wealth, and how to define success on your own terms. Here's to finding your own way forward. I'm so glad you're here. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Your Next Gen Friend. Super excited to be here with Adam today. Adam joined his family's firm. What was it doing? $100 million around when you joined. The kind of came in on legal, and then you did all the different roles over time. Eventually helped scaled it to over $500 million. Had some big clients, and that was really cool. But that's just like a piece of who you are, right? And so super excited to jump in today. Now you have a company called 21 Clear. You help family businesses kind of with everything that you've learned over the years, and probably most importantly, lovely wife, 3 kids. So yeah, why don't you just tell us a little more about Adam?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And how fun is it to be here with you on Your Next Gen Friend? And I love what you do. So yeah, I am one of us, I guess I would say. I'm a next gen. I am third generation out of my family's 52-year-old staffing and recruiting business. To give you a quick history of the company, my grandfather started it in 1973. He got laid off in Augusta, Georgia, after an international manufacturer was acquired by a global company. He had $500 and a rented roll-top copier. He started the company to try to provide workforce and engineers in particular to manufacturers. A career in manufacturing, he'd never worked with a recruiter who knew how to really work with him, and he very much believed in outsourcing your labor. You don't need your own recruiting team. I'll be your recruiting team. Interestingly, he started the company with my grandmother as the receptionist. They had no formality around family working together, inter-family business, any of the stuff you and I have talked about. Got in a fight and their relationship lasted about a day. So we had 100% turnover of family on the first day. So that was 1973. We had 3 generations work in the company to date. I joined in 2010. My grandfather was still there. We worked together for 3.5 years. I reported to my father. My cousin was there. My step-uncle was there as well. My uncle had left about 10 years prior as part of the transition from the first to the second generation. And then my brother joined after I was there. And so for 13 years, I was general counsel, and then became head of corporate strategy, head of human resources. We were about $120 million when I joined, a regional company based out of the Southeast. And by the time I stepped away, we had approached $500 million and had scaled to coast.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And I'd love to just, because people don't just land inside of a family business. So let's talk about like Adam in high school. What were you interested in then? Did you know you were going to study law? Did you know that meant that there was going to be this like legal function position available for you inside the family business? Or were you kind of doing your own thing and then ended back up in the business?
Perhaps one of the most dangerous things a next gen can do is drift into the family company. Whether you believe it is your inevitable destiny, or you go get some job like director of this economy is scary, so I'll go into the family company. Because I think I had 10 or 11 different jobs for free pay or credit before I worked in the family company, which I never believed that I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And the complexity of scaling a business with family dynamics in the heart of it is something that is fundamentally different from any other job I had. Some of my jobs I was a great fit for, some of them I wasn't such a good fit for. So even the ones that I wasn't a good fit for, like the family company, is just so different. And every other company in the world you could go work for as a next gen, you don't have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does make it harder. And so was there a point in time where you were like, this is like, it's worth it to go in, or maybe you didn't even know before you went in and like actually experienced like what that would feel like and how it would feel different?
I had no clue. Looking back, I wish I had. And interestingly, my father and I were talking recently, and he knew because he had worked with his father. He had worked with his sister and his brother. He said, I knew I was taking a risk when I hired you. But even between the two of us, that wasn't a conversation in 2010. And that could be part of an onboarding conversation. Son, I know I am taking a risk. So for me, I never thought I would work in the family company. I was around it. My grandfather, my dad, my uncle, as they scaled the business together, did a really good job of keeping it away from the dinner table, away from Thanksgiving, Christmas. I don't have some of those stories about family business arguments or discussions dominating a holiday or a birthday party. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
I interned there 2 different times, once in high school, once in college. I was a receptionist. I did some work with my grandfather, but these weren't substantive jobs in the business. I never thought I would work there. I'm the oldest of 3. My brother and sister are both smarter than me, and my sister's smarter than both of us combined. My belief was at some point, if it were to continue, and I have a bunch of cousins, that one of them would come back and they would take over the company and I would watch it. I went to law school, and that in part came from a conversation with my father, who encouraged me to go to graduate school. But he did not say, go to graduate school to join the family company. Mm-hmm. And I'll get to when he actually made it an option at some point in just a second. So I went to graduate school. My wife and I got married. We moved to Augusta, Georgia. I practiced law for 3 years. And my father, after 3 years, approached me and said that an outside attorney had told them at 100 employees, about 120 million, you guys are getting to the point where you need a general counsel. So he came to me and said, would you like to? And I told him, good luck finding one, and no. Mm-hmm. That's how that conversation started.
Mm. Yeah, and how did that feel in the moment? Like to say no in that capacity?
I don't think I really understood what I was doing. I knew that it was not. We were thinking of. Let me say it a different way. We were thinking of moving. Mm-hmm. We were going to move to a bigger city. We're going to be around different family or different friends. So my wife and I had started to think outside of the city. So really it felt like at the time the company was regional and very much based in 2 cities, Augusta and Greenville, South Carolina. It felt like being asked to stay in Augusta. And so saying no was really just saying, I'm moving.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. We talk so much about how you need to know what your objectives are. And obviously you have permission to change what your objective is at any time. But for you to clearly say, like, my wife and I, or our family, like, our desire right now is that XYZ is going to be able to happen. Sometimes, like, in families, when we start to see conflict boil up, when people can actually sit down and just say, like, you're telling me about this thing, and I'll be curious to hear how he ultimately made that invitation for you to come in, but you're saying this thing, and I think that is in direct opposition, or that's going to stop me from achieving XYZ thing that is super important. And as a rising gen, it's this like really tricky place where you live in the middle, because it's like, oh, well, yeah, sure, I should do that because it's the family, or it seems like it should be a really good fit, or, well, I really like you guys. Of course I should do that, but you also have to take care of yourself, and if you're married, you have to take care of your family to also make sure that the things and decisions you're making are in alignment with what you want for your life. And it sounds like at the time, at least like when you were able to start, like sort of make that initial decision, it felt in alignment with what you wanted in your life. And I think there's a lot to commend about that.
Thank you for that. It very much was pro. It was, we are pro moving, pro exploring something outside of the city. We'd work, at that time, we'd I'd been back home for 3 years. And so we'd moved a couple of times before that. It just felt like a continuation of that. Very different maybe than some of the people that you have helped or you were just talking about who might have been saying, not you, Dad. Or my grandfather was still alive. Not you, cousin. Not you, grandfather. Mm-hmm. I've worked with and talked to those families. But my story was instead of running from something, it was running towards something else. And what was interesting then, let's see, so that's 2009, 2010. A couple of years before that, I was living in Winston-Salem. My wife was working in campus Christian ministry, and I was in law school. I got a letter that had been copied to my brother and sister from my father. It seemingly came out of nowhere, which I have learned is very normal in family companies. And it said, in paraphrase, "Dear Adam, my brother, and my sister, I don't know if the Lord will ever make you feel or call you to come back to the family company. I don't know. Or if it will ever interest you. But if you ever feel a interest or a call or a leaning, these 5 things have to be true before I'll consider you. You must graduate from college, go to graduate school." Now note, it didn't say what degree. It didn't say what school. It didn't say what graduate degree, but graduate from college, go to graduate school, work somewhere else, get promoted, and be compatible with Christian values. The company talks about making lives better, honoring the unique worth of other people, putting honesty and integrity above all else at all times and at all costs. You need to be aligned with those at a place in your life where you're aligned with those things.
Yeah.
What's interesting about those 5, and the 3 of us were copied on it, interesting about those 5 is they don't have anything to do with a job. Those aren't the qualifications. I started as the general counsel. Those aren't the qualifications of a job. Those weren't the qualifications of a receptionist, of a head of sales. They were a criteria that the family members had to meet before even being considered for a possible fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. We talk sometimes about, and I know you have a model of the family and inside of the family business. We talk about this idea of there's the family community and there's the family business community. And the family community is always inclusive because your dad was not saying you don't get to be part of this family if you don't do X, Y, Z, right? Like you are by nature of who you are and being a son and being siblings, part of the family community. However, there can be parameters and restrictions, and the family business does have the opportunity and should be exclusive. It doesn't mean oftentimes that everyone is just guaranteed a job or guaranteed a position or whatever inside of that family business community. And so what I heard was this kind of your dad saying, if you're interested someday in exploring what this family business looks like, these are the things and the requirements. And how did that letter land for you? Like, what did that feel like in the moment? And then looking back on it now, like, does it feel different than it felt in the moment?
All right, let's be frank. I'm in law school. I'm a newlywed. My brother's in college. My sister is in high school at the time. So It's never too early to start working on the family business inside your company, the way the family members work together and own the company together. Company's not on my radar. They're younger. It just kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't recognize the significance of it. It's been interesting leaning into family business consulting. I thought this was a basic principle every family company had, and it's one that almost none of us do.
Yeah.
And I've talked about it with him since. And I'll come back to it. As a next gen, now looking back, I'm deeply grateful for it. Mm-hmm. I believe when you choose as a next gen to work in a company, You don't know this, so I'll tell you it as a 13-year alumnus. One of the best gifts you can receive is if the generation or the family member that hires you can stare you in the eyes and tell you why you are a good fit, not in the family, but in this company, and a good fit to work with these other family members. Mm-hmm. If they can look at you and say, Adam, you have graduated from the University of Virginia, from Wake Forest Law. You have worked several different jobs. You've worked as an assistant district attorney. Your promotion was being hired by a well-regarded law firm here in town, a private practice. And you align with the values that I told you about in the letter. In addition to that, you have these experiences as an attorney. We believe those qualify you or begin to qualify you to be the general counsel whose responsibilities will be this. Mm-hmm. Because, Adam, you've met the family hiring criteria, because you meet the criteria of a general counsel, or you could get there within a year, we're going to bring you into the company. That is so much better. And so looking back, it's pretty incredible that that's how I was brought in, having passed the family hiring criteria and being matched to an actual job with real responsibilities. I mean, within, I think, 12 months, we had set a target, and I'm not exactly going to get these numbers right. It's been a while. But I think we were reducing outside legal spend from 0.75% of net income to below 0.3%. That's a real outcome for a general counsel to chase. So it's a real job that I was hired into, having passed the family criteria. So looking back, I'm deeply grateful. Those were advantages to me as a next gen coming into the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure it affected your relationship with your siblings. Like, did you and your siblings talk about this letter or like what it meant at all? Obviously, even having a sister in high school, I'm sure she was maybe a little like, what does this even mean?
What is this? So here, again, hindsight. So this is, that was, hang on, that letter is 2000. So we've got about 20 years of family meetings now. They would have started after that letter. That letter was not an outgrowth of a family meeting. I would tell a family I'm working with, if you're having I like to call them family action meetings. So you're increasing alignment, communication, and trust, ACT. So family action meetings. Okay. Some people call them family council, family meetings, but I like moving somewhere. These meetings should move you somewhere. So if you were having a family action meeting, that's the kind of thing you would share. Hey, we're drafting these. Does anyone need clarification? Does anyone want to add something? Or, hey, we wrote these as the controlling generation. We're just telling you what they are, but we're going to be clear about it, and we're going to communicate it to everybody. Yeah. So I would tell someone to do it as part of a family meeting. Our cadence didn't start for a couple years after that.
Okay. And around like what age were you when you got that letter? And then how many years later was it when you decided to join the business?
I was probably 25. So that would put my brother about 21 and then my sister 17. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's too early to talk about it. I talked to a family member who did not work in their family's company, but their spouse was an owner in it. And their oldest child was in second grade. And in an offhand comment, they said to me, their sister-in-law was the CEO of the company. They said, I wonder if my kids will ever get to work in the company or if it's just her kids. It's never too early. My sister was 17. You could have backed it up from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, so obviously there was ultimately this general counsel position. You decided that was a good fit. You met the qualifications and felt ready to come in. And then what did it feel like once you kind of landed into the business? What was that growth like? What was the relationship like with your dad and your grandpa? You said you worked with him for a couple years. So walk us through like that first 2-3 years inside of the family business.
let me go back and answer the question I accidentally skipped because it comes into that. Mm-hmm. How old am I? So I joined in 2010. So I'm 29 years old. So I would have gotten the letter at about 25. So it was around 4 years when I got the letter, 4 or 5 years when I got the letter in school, worked for 3 years out of school, and then ended up joining. The step I skipped over was after I told my father no. What changed? I went, and I don't remember why. I don't remember if it was his suggestion or I thought to do it or if it was a discussion. I don't remember why. I went and had lunch with 3 other family business members, people that were working with their family. They were 3rd or 4th gens. They had about a 15-year age range between them. And their tenure in their family companies, they were all at least 10. One was, at the time, over 20 years. These were not people that had just started in their families. And so I went to and had a long lunch, one-on-one, with all 3 of them over a period of time. And if I were to roll up the advice that they gave me, it would synthesize this way. Adam, you are 29 years old. You're not 50. Your son is 6 months old. Your wife has a job. You have a law degree and have proven that you can practice law. There is an opportunity to join the family company, and it is not chief waiting for dad to retire officer. It is a real job that requires a professional certification that you hold and have shown you are capable of performing. You don't know what it's going to be like. You might have interned there a couple years. You might have been around these people for a long time, but you don't know what they're going to be like when you get there. You don't know what they're like to work with. There's a lot, I would tell anyone that. There's a lot good and hard that you don't know about your family until you step into the company with them for a little while. Go through a recession together. Go through growth together. Go through a lean year, a major capital allocation. You'll learn new things about each other. I said, you don't know what it's going to be like, but at 29, you're stepping into an actual job. 2 years later, if you don't like it, you're only 31. And you find a successor and you leave. And the story is, I never thought I was going to work in the family company. Truth. They called me. There was a need I was uniquely capable of filling. I stood the legal office up. It wasn't the right thing for me. I found a really good person, backfilled myself, and left him better than I found him. I said, that's a good story. And your son's only 2 by that time, 2 or 3 years old. If you don't do it, you will always regret that you didn't try. And if you wait till you're 50, it has to work.
Yep.
At 29 or 30, it doesn't have to work. And that combination or synthesized advice led to my dad and I. We went away for 1 or 2 nights together, had a couple of dinners, a couple of conversations, and decided that we would take the chance together and that I would start as the general counsel. One thing I didn't realize about the 5-part hiring criteria he gave me, and I don't remember when he explained this to me, but why did he require graduating from college, graduate school, work experience somewhere else? None of that is unique, by the way, in family companies. I've seen lots of companies that do that. Writing it's a different thing, but lots that do that. And why did he require getting promoted? He told me either before he hired me or sometime in my time there, he said, Adam, the only person who ever promoted me was my dad, or because I purchased something from him. I graduated from the University of Georgia on a Friday. I went to work for my father with my brother on a Monday, and that's the only person who ever moved me up in the professional world. He told me, son, I want you to know you have value and skill outside of my eyes, worth outside of what your dad thinks, and that you have value and options outside of this company. Looking back, that made joining easier and more independent and freer. And I could have never put words on it back then.
There's a lot of freedom in that and a lot of wisdom. And I'm also wondering, like, a lot of that comes from his second generation experience, having actually lived it. I don't know if he would have been able to craft that type of scenario or those reasons for the exact example that you gave, right? Of him only ever being promoted or only ever working inside of the family business.
You don't have to come from a great story to create a better story. I was just reading, there's a Swiss chocolate company, Laderac. They're a third-gen family company. The succession story is so good. Was it 2021, the second generation leader finally steps away, turns it over to his three sons after a 3-year transition period. You go back, that's 2021. You go back to 2006, he hires a managing director of the family company and says, your job is to increase the brand until the third generation's ready to take over. Then all three of the sons go to university and they have different experiences, and then they rotate through the company, and then he turns it over, and the board is now non-family with some family, and the executives are non-family with some. And it's just, it's the kind of thing you look at and it's kind of intimidating as a family company. Like, wow, that's great. Well, you want to know where he started? His name's Jurg, Jurg. Jurg, the second generation. He is a missionary in India with his 3 young children. His father calls him, this is not a family action meeting. His dad calls him out of nowhere and says, in 1994, and says, the company is going to fail. I would like you, if you would come back to help try to save it, but you don't have to. I know you're in India and you're a missionary, and I respect you. That's how he started. And then he did something much different.
Yeah.
And my father, likewise, Friday to Monday, did something fundamentally different for me.
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter what the previous generation has done. You can build on the platform. You can steal the good things they did and then build on top of the chaos. As well.
And I think I hear this a lot. So let's shift a little bit into like actually working in the business and actually scaling it. Because there's that tension of being a rising gen, and you start to get more responsibility and you're stepping more into leadership. And it's like, do I actually have authority to do this? The people who did this before are still around. They're still leaders. Like, did you have any of that tension, and what did that look like for you? How did you navigate that?
No, I mean, we didn't have any tension at all. I don't know who does that. Probably just the weak ones, right?
I wish.
Oh, wait. So I'm sorry.
It was a joke, everyone.
Oh, that's right. Not everybody can see my... That's right. If you're watching this on YouTube, you saw my eyes. No. I didn't have words for this until about 12 months ago. Somebody said, you know why family businesses are hard? Why working with family in a company that you own is hard? Oh, I don't know. Tell me. I did it for 13 years. That because what you've done is you have mixed the unconditional nature of family with the very conditional nature of a for-profit corporation. And I thought about that and went, Okay, so think about your wedding photo. I think about mine. There's a spot in my wedding photo that is unconditionally for my father-in-law. And it doesn't matter what happens in our relationship. We have a great relationship. But even if we didn't, if it were strained, if it were broken, it doesn't change that spot in that picture is unconditionally for my father-in-law, even if he's not in it. Like, there's always a spot for it. That's the unconditional nature of family. It's set at birth. It's developed in family systems. But business is not like that at all. I don't think business is the other side of the coin. It is diametrically opposed and in tension. It is conditioned on competitive advantage, market forces, tariffs, leadership capabilities. The marketplace will decide conditionally about the company. And when you work with your family, you take these two things and mix them together. The unconditional nature with the conditional nature of the business. Why did my grandmother walk out on my grandfather? She was not qualified to be a receptionist. It had been over 20 years since she had taken shorthand, which was a way people took down dictation back then to then turn it into a letter. She did not tell him that she had forgotten how to do it. He dictated a letter to her. He left for lunch, came back. She put, it was pretty much gibberish on his desk. And then he, having very little tact as a professional, said, "Marion, what were you thinking?" The response back would make most HR professionals blush. And then she finished it by saying, "And Bill, I quit." Okay, what happened there? I mean, it's funny. We've told that story. He loved her till death did them part, and the company is at 52 years now. It's funny. But what happened there? They brought their unconditional marriage in and put no formality in rules around how they work together, how they resolve conflict, how they talk to each other, what the qualifications for their jobs were or their roles. And then when an inflection point came, there's tension there all the time. And without any sort of governance or rules around it, it blew up into chaos and my grandma walked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's somebody asked me, they said, when I started 21 Clear to work with families who want to get their companies somewhere and stay together, because that's what my experience was with my family, do you do succession? I said, well, I mean, that's part of it, but that's only one part of the life cycle. In fact, a succession event's only going to happen ever 2 or 3 times for a family company. Most of them will never get to the 4th, and a lot of times that's okay. If you wait till succession, you might never get there because that tension, just like with my grandparents, exists on the first day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so as you moved up in your role and you start helping scale the company, did you ever feel that tension moment of like, my ideas or what I'm bringing like feels a little bit bigger, or they're not moving fast enough? How do you balance some of those things in the business?
I'll tell you a moment. Let me think. I'll tell you a moment that was difficult and one that was great. Okay. My belief is when you work with your family in a company, and that's my perspective, because that's what I did. I was a next gen who chose to work in the company. We have not formally established a family office. There are assets and real estate to manage, but that's not where the majority of the energy was. The energy of the family and the family employees was in the growing of the core staffing and recruiting business. Mm-hmm. I remember once working with my father to help, as the head of corporate strategy, create a tighter strategic calendar to run the company on. Calendar based on the budget cycle and general client demands and holidays, trying to help our strategy meetings and thus the board meetings, the family meetings, all align with creating priorities for the next year. Worked with a consultant, came up with a really great proposal. My dad and I figured it out together, and I forgot to go bounce it one-on-one off of my other non-family executive peers before the meeting. So instead, we presented to him an executive meeting. Well, we had acquired a different business line by then that ran on a totally different schedule. Not a completely different, but different enough, and had their own schedule and had been very successful. Several other executives with far more tenure than me who were caught off guard by this presentation, a new calendar they had to follow. And so they all pushed back, which is pretty normal. Mm-hmm. And it ended up getting pushed to the side for further discussion and debate. And I think for most executives, that's pretty normal. You think you have something, maybe you even had a deal with the CEO, you get in there and it goes different than you thought, and you just check and adjust. Mm-hmm. Well, in a family, it feels like, come on, Dad! Like, we had this. What was that? I thought you had my back. Mm-hmm. We both know this is the right thing. What happened? Like, that's not something that is it's just not as personal. I've had a lot of bosses that weren't my dad. You might get miffed or annoyed, but there's not that personal, ooh, do we have each other's back here? What are we doing? That's one of that mixing of conditional and unconditional. Yeah. That's one of the hard moments. I'll tell you one of the good ones. The company was we were probably around 200 employees, still a regional company. I was new into human resources. So at that time I had corporate strategy, corporate strategy, legal, and then added human resources. And in my annual review, because my father and I did all the normal rhythms of the company, one-on-one meetings and reviews, we got to the question, do you have what you need to do your best work? And I said, no. I said, I'll take that moment in. Both the executive in those 3 combined roles has said, I don't have what I need to do. And your son has just said, I don't have what I need to do my best work. He said, well, what do you mean? Trying to think, what have I not given you? And I think this is a question a family member in my position would have been quicker to ask than a non-family member. I'm not certain. But what next gens can do when it's going really well. I said, are you and Marilee, because we used first names at work. So my mother is Marilee. Are you and Marilee happy? I said, what do you mean? Are you and Marilee happy the company was about 200 million. Are you and Marilee happy at 200 top line? So, well, why do you ask? So, well, for the 3 roles I'm in, if you're content here with, again, incremental growth year over year, but not an aggressive growth target, if you're happy here, my job needs to go one way. But if you want to take this and try to march it to $1 billion top line, if you want to break into the top 15 or 20 in the industry nationally, that's a totally different job. And you're the one who makes the call. But I need to know. And the conversations that came after that were interesting. And one of the advantages of a family business, because what we uncovered is this went all the way back to some of my father's deep-seated religious beliefs about where you put your identity. And if you grow a company too fast, how you can become absorbed. It's hard enough in a family company not to let it absorb your identity. But if you start to have a march of success, how it can double down on that difficulty and border on idolatry of a company and what it provides. That's where his lack of setting that, call it a big, hairy, audacious goal, thematic goal, one big thing, where his desire to not set one of those came from. And he and I were able to work through that and balance both the humility that he wanted to see in the company and the organization's need to have a steady, repeatable forward march. I thought back on that example a few years later. I didn't realize it in the moment what had happened, but I thought, whoo, I don't know how many people can talk to their CEO boss, push on their religious beliefs, and find a compromise that incorporates all of that and moves the organization forward in a way that is consistent with what they want. Yeah. So that's the difficult part, man, I thought you had my back. Like, that's the hard side of family business. And then there's some really good stuff. And then what'd we do? Quadrupled the company in 7 years.
So I love this, and I appreciate talking and just so much wisdom and what you've shared, and a lot of awareness, and just like who you are and what was authentic to you, and also a lot of care for your family and the business itself, right? And I'm sure it's a hard decision, and I'm sure there were some heartbreaks in there and also some exciting things as you start to get to define and think about what is next. And it's always it's always an opportunity to continue evolving and thinking about who you are and what's authentic to you. And so really exciting that you've landed in a good spot.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that.
Yeah, we'll hope to have you back in the future just to dive a little bit more into how sort of the relationships with family now, you thinking about your next generation, thinking about the future of your whole family ecosystem, and also the way that you help other family businesses navigate just life as a family business. And kind of, we've had some really good discussions before about what is the right point to even start talking about all of this. And spoiler alert, it's now. But what are the types of things that we can start doing to prepare for that? So would love to have you back, and thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am excited for the focus you give on next gen. One of the kindred professional hearts between us is be early, be intentional. It's never early enough or intentional enough, and it's going to be bumpy. And it's okay, because it's going to be better. So how fun this was. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks, Adam. And thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. That's it for today. I hope today's episode offered some clarity, or at least a little company. If this resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with another Next Gen. While my podcast is for the successors, you can also check out its sister show, The Business Transition Roadmap, hosted by my business partner, Elizabeth Ledoux. There's lots of great material in business and family succession over there. I hope you'll take a listen. Be well, and see you next time.